So we're coming up on Week 16 of the 2017 NFL season. Week 16, that means there's only 2 weeks of regular season action left. For fans of teams like myself in the Bears, 2 weeks until the season is mercifully over. But it's still a big week of football for people that still play the traditional season-long fantasy leagues. This is when the vast majority of leagues have their championship game for their fantasy playoffs. And in terms of the real world, there's a lot at stake in terms of playoff positioning, playoff berths, playoff seeding, and that is definitely true here. So here I am with my picks for this pivotal Week 16 of NFL action. Now, last week's picks, another pretty good week, not superstar stuff, but enough to make some decent money off of. 10-6, picking winners straight up, and more importantly, 11-5 versus the spread, which is where I feel like it's always more interesting and a little bit more challenging. But if you went to Vegas and bet based off of my picks with the spread, you would have made some decent money last week. There you go. For the season, that also holds true. 141-84 in picking winners straight up, 131-90 against the spread. So a good, decent performance. Hopefully these last 2 weeks I can close out the season on a high note. Let's see what we can do, though. Starting off with the Saturday games. Not really very interesting. You got Indy traveling to Baltimore to take on the Colts. Not surprisingly, the Ravens are monster favorites here, 14.5-point favorites. I think it's obvious the Ravens will be favored to win this game as they should be, which they are. I still feel like 14.5 is a mighty big spread, especially for a Ravens team whose offense isn't particularly great. So I'll pick Baltimore to win, but give me Indianapolis to cover the spread plus the 14.5. The late Saturday game is the Vikings traveling to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Now, as of this recording, I'm not sure if Aaron Rodgers is playing or not. We'll see what happens. If he's not, then the Minnesota being favored by 10 spread makes sense. If Rodgers is playing, though, that might be a bit of a big spread. At this point in time, like I said, I'm not really sure. I haven't paid much attention today, and I'm only recording this on Thursday any damn way. So I'm going to assume that Rodgers is going to want to play. But even if he doesn't, Hundley had a couple of moments where he wasn't terrible. This is a road game, divisional game. Again, a really big spread. Give me Minnesota to win, but give me Green Bay to cover plus the 10. And then as we move into Sunday and we move into Christmas Eve, what better way to say Merry effing Christmas, Jeff, than the Cleveland Browns taking on the Chicago Bears in Soldier Field? Oh man, I can only imagine what the attendance is going to be for this game. Oh man, I can only imagine what type of bad football people are going to be treated to. This shall be a stinker of epic proportions. And there is that significant part of me that hopes the Cleveland Browns lose this one and lose the next one. Lose them all, Cleveland! You got a real chance to make history here. But then on the flip side, there's that part of me that really wonders if the Browns are going to win any game this year. Could this be the game? Could this be the time? I realize Cleveland's 0-14 and the Bears have won 4 games, but you're giving the Bears 7 even at home. It seems mighty big of a spread. I'll pick Chicago to win because at this point in time, John Fox is just going to screw up their draft position. But give me Cleveland to cover the 7-point spread. But again, I really wonder if Cleveland could be dangerous here. The Lions travel to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. The Lions have quite a bit to play for. They're still in the hunt in the NFC in the playoff race. The Bengals are done. They've quit, just like Marvin Lewis is quitting on the team at the end of the season. And for all intents and purposes, it looks like he's quit now. Give me Detroit minus the 4. The Rams travel to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Both teams, you could argue for differing reasons, really need this game. The Rams need it for potential seeding purposes and then also to ensure that they win the NFC West because they win one more game, it's a wrap. It'll get them a home playoff game. But they could still be thinking about potentially getting a first-round bye if different things happen. That might not happen, but they have the ability to think about it. Whereas Tennessee at 8-6, they really, really badly need to win this game at home. They really, really badly need to win this game. Because if they don't, they're probably out of the playoffs. If they do win this, they probably will find a way to get in. In that case, I look at the Rams and I look at what's happened. They've had a couple of big games back-to-back. Here's another big game here. This time it's on the road. The Rams are favored by 7, but for some weird reason, I really like the Titans plus the 7 here. I really think the Titans will win this game because it's the desperation of they've got to have it. The Dolphins travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Kansas City is favored by an 11.5-point spread. Give me Kansas City minus 11.5. Buffalo travels to New England to take on the Patriots, and the Patriots are favored by 13. Maybe a little bit surprised by that spread. Maybe, especially knowing that New England just got trounced and owned by Miami on Monday night a couple weeks ago. These divisional matchups, when you see spreads that big, especially with the Patriots being the Patriots coming off of that big game against the Steelers, here's the potential for a letdown game, whereas the Bills really desperately, I know it's a road game, but they really got to badly have it. They've got to badly, badly have this one. I still think New England finds a way to win, but give me Buffalo plus the 13 all day long to cover that spread. Atlanta travels to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Atlanta squeaked out with the victory on Monday night against Tampa. Meanwhile, the Saints handle business at home against a pesky Jets team on Sunday. You look at this game, the Saints are in cruise control in terms of their own destiny. Win out and you win the NFC South. Potentially you could get into the mix maybe for a first-round bye, although that might be a little bit out of their reach now. But you still want that home playoff game. You still want to be able to say you were division champions. Meanwhile, for Atlanta, they got to win out. And you got a New Orleans game here, and then you got Carolina next week. There's a lot of pressure on Atlanta. It's a big game for Atlanta. New Orleans is favored by 6. Give me New Orleans minus the 6, as I still don't believe in Atlanta. I'm sorry, I don't. Chargers travel to the Jets to take on a New York team without Josh McCown, but that was still pesky on the road last week against a really good Saints team. Meanwhile, the Chargers, going into Kansas City, kind of fell flat on their face and shot themselves in the foot and cost themselves a golden opportunity with all the momentum they have built. Now, granted, they are still in the playoff race, but it feels like maybe they're crashing back to reality a little bit. Give me the Jets plus the 7 and a bit of a surprise here. Denver travels to Washington to take on the Redskins in a game they'll be showing locally here that nobody will really have any interest in. Give me the Redskins minus the 3. Tampa Bay travels to Carolina to take on the Panthers. The Panthers are favored by 11.5. It seems like a big spread, but Carolina's at home. I'll still take Carolina minus the 11.5. The late Sunday games. Jacksonville travels to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Danger, danger, danger. Warning, 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 Jaguars. This is a dangerous game for you. Very dangerous. 49ers have won 3 in a row. It looks like they may have potentially found that guy in Garoppolo. This is an entirely different team than what their record would suggest. And now you've got to go on the road. You know, now you've got that pressure off of you because you've clinched a playoff spot. I know Jacksonville's favorite here, but I like San Francisco plus the 4. 4 in a row, San Francisco. Make it happen. Seattle travels to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. This is really in a playoff elimination game. Loser of this game is done in the playoff race. The winner of it has no guarantees based off of Week 17 that they'll get in, but they at least still keep their hopes alive. They still have a chance, but they need help. Zeke's coming back. I really, honestly, I don't like the aura around the Seahawks coming off of that monster loss to the Rams. I mean, they got smoked. They got owned. They got dismantled. Give me the Cowboys minus the 5. And then another game nobody's going to care about. The Giants travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals, unless you're maybe a Colts fan and you hope your team loses and maybe you think that the Giants – I don't know what the hell you're thinking if the Giants lose out or whatever. Arizona's favored by 3.5. Give me Arizona minus 3.5. The Sunday night game. Oh, boy. Christmas Eve night, the nightcap. What could have been and ultimately wasn't. Pittsburgh travels to Houston to take on the Texans. This could be a letdown spot for the Steelers with that tough loss to New England on Sunday afternoon. But the Texans absolutely suck. Give me Pittsburgh minus the 10. And yes, I know Pittsburgh's history, and I know Pittsburgh's this, and I know Pittsburgh's that. But still, give me the Steelers to win in minus the 10. And then Monday night, we got the Raiders traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. The Eagles are favored by 10 points. The Raiders are done in the AFC playoff race. The Eagles are still fighting for first-round bye. They're still fighting for a number 1 overall seed. I think the Eagles will handle business, but it'll be close. Give me Philly to win, but give me Oakland to cover the 10-point spread. So a lot of splits this week in terms of I think one team wins, but I think the underdog will cover the spread. We'll see what happens. It's either going to be a really, really good picks week for me or it's going to be the absolute shits. We'll find out in a couple of days.